Assalamu alaikum. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, speakers, partners, students, and participants from all corners of the African continent and beyond. Good afternoon and welcome. It is with great pleasure and a deep sense of accomplishment that I welcome you today to University Mohammed VI Polytechnic, particularly in this new conference center that we are inaugurating on this occasion to host the side event of the 2023 annual meetings of the World Bank Group and the International Monetary Fund, under the theme, The Voice of Africa. I would like to take this opportunity to emphasize that the decision to hold the 2023 annual meetings of the World Bank Group and the IMF in Marrakesh, despite the terrible earthquake in the House region of Morocco, is a demonstration of our resilience and our commitment to promoting dialogue, innovation, and cooperation for the future of our continent. It also honors the trust placed in Morocco. We are convinced that it is in these moments of challenge that Africa can unveil its strength and ability to overturn obstacles and build a better future. Ladies and gentlemen, the Voice of Africa side events mark an important milestone in our quest for academic excellence, the promotion of research, and our commitment to the future of our continent, which coincided with these crucial global gatherings. An Africa that is sovereign, productive, sustainable, resilient, creative, and innovative. An Africa strengthened by its youth, its wise men and women, whether they live there or contribute to its prosperity through the diaspora around the world. A vibrant Africa boasting countless assets. When we set out to organize this event, we endeavored to provide Africa with a prominent platform at the heart of these major international encounters. We aimed to create a space where Africa's voices could be heard loud and clear, and where the challenges and opportunities of our continent could be fully explored in harmony with those of other world-class researchers, experts, and entrepreneurs. That's why, after thorough consideration, we have carefully selected the major topics that will frame the discussions during this event: food security and sustainability, entrepreneurship, African diaspora and innovation, and last but not least, cultural and creative industries. These topics have been selected for their relevance and urgency, taking into account the realities of Africa today. Allow me to present them briefly. The first topic, food security and sustainability, highlights the crucial importance of food security and sustainability for the future of our continent. Africa faces complex food security challenges, and we need to explore innovative solutions to ensure a stable and sustainable food supply, ultimately to enable Africa to contribute to global food security and capitalize on this role. The second topic, entrepreneurship, celebrates the spirit of enterprise in Africa. We firmly believe that entrepreneurship is a powerful driving force for economic growth and social development, and we want to encourage and support African entrepreneurs who are shaping the future of our continent. The third topic, African diaspora and innovation, acknowledges the essential role of the African diaspora in the creation and dissemination of innovation. We want to explore how the diaspora can make a significant contribution to Africa's evolution. In this context, we'd be delighted to share the exclusive results of our 1.5 million leaders study next Thursday. Finally, last but not least, the fourth topic, cultural and creative industries, highlights the richness of our cultural and creative heritage. These industries have enormous potential to stimulate economic growth and strengthen our cultural identity. Over the next few days, we'll have the chance to hear renowned experts, visionary innovators, talented artists, and inspiring leaders share their ideas and experiences. I encourage each and every one of you to actively participate in the discussions, share your knowledge, and contribute to establishing a common vision for the future of our continent. We are also delighted to present the Solutions Village, which is being organized as part of the event. The Solution Village is a space dedicated to innovation and creativity where companies, startups, NGOs, and local initiatives can showcase their projects and innovative solutions to tackle some of Africa's most pressing issues. This village embodies our commitment to concrete action and the implementation of ideas discussed herein. It offers a unique platform for networking, learning, and inspiration. Over the next few days, we have the opportunity to explore this village, interact with its exhibitor, and discover the innovations emerging from our continent. In conclusion, I would like to thank all those who have contributed to the making of this event, our partners, our dedicated teams, and of course you, their participants, for your commitment to Africa and for being here today. May the voice of Africa be the beginning of fruitful dialogue, innovative collaboration, and inspiration for all those who believe in the power of Africa to shape a better future. I wish you all inspiring discussions and a rewarding experience at UM6P and at the 2023 annual meetings of the World Bank Group and the IMF, both in Benguerir and in Marrakesh. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hisham El Habdi, President of UM6P, for your welcoming words, for reminding us of the importance of the events happening today here in Benguerir and in Marrakesh. And thank you as well for setting the scene for such amazing discussions happening this week here. And also, very important for this call of action to everybody sitting here today. So my name is Leonardo Verguts. I am the Chief Innovation Officer of OCP, and I'm going to be moderating this session today. Right now, I would like to invite our speakers to take their seats here. We'll start with Mr. Jacques Attali. Dr. Daniel Naoun. Dr. Terry Roberts. Dr. Dimitris Bertsimas. And Mr. Elias El Fali. It's a great pleasure to be with all of you here today. And as we just heard from the US former secretary, the World Bank, the 2023 World Bank IMF meetings, it focused on what it will take to end poverty on a livable planet and how to respond to these intertwined global challenges. What solutions have worked on the ground in developing countries? How do we boost jobs, digital infrastructure, and climate action? Well, this brings us to the theme of this first side event, which is resilient and sustainable agricultural system, our only way forward. Agriculture is one of the sectors emitting the most greenhouse gas emissions, with around 1/4 of all our yearly emissions. This is the result of agriculture having a single objective for a long time, which was to produce enough food to avoid the catastrophic Malthusian famine prediction, which we have successfully accomplished. However, what many see as a big problem actually represents our biggest opportunity. The opportunity to change, to improve the way we do agriculture and ensure not only food security, but also additional life-supporting ecosystem services. It is estimated that 95% of our food comes from the soils. And soils, they are the connector of our major societal challenges. Developing a sustainable agriculture that will ensure healthy soils will allow us to feed our always growing population, to cut greenhouse gas emissions, and sequestering carbon in our soils. By doing so, agriculture will become an important component of our solutions to meet our sustainable development goals, something that we are lagging behind. Today, our esteemed panelists, they will discuss the future of agriculture, the complexity and importance of developing healthy soils, the correct use of nutrients as the foundation of sustainable agriculture, particularly in the tropics, and how to bring the right incentives to give the support that farmers need to transform agriculture. I would like to thank again to all our esteemed panelists, and I would like to invite Mr. Jacques Attali to share his views on the future of agriculture, how climate change will affect food security, how different regions of the world they would face these different problems. Mr. Attali is the president of Attali Associates. Mr. Attali, thank you very much for being here with us today. You have the mic and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. As I am told by some of you speak French, and as I like to speak my own language, therefore I will switch to French, if you don't mind. Merci beaucoup de cet accueil. Merci, Cham, de cette merveilleuse hospitalité. Je ne suis pas un spécialiste de l'agriculture, donc je vais parler d'une façon plus générale en essayant de poser les problèmes tels que je les vois. Il y a dans cette salle beaucoup de gens très jeunes. 2050, c'est demain matin pour eux. Et je voudrais me concentrer sur les enjeux de l'alimentation en Afrique d'ici à 2050. Je serai non pas pessimiste, mais je serai alarmiste. Je pense que l'histoire est tragique, que le pire est toujours le plus vraisemblable et que la seule façon d'avoir une chance de l'éviter, c'est de s'y préparer. N'étant pas un spécialiste de l'agriculture ni de l'alimentation, mais en regardant ces sujets dans le contexte global de la prévision de long terme, qui est mon principal sujet de préoccupation aujourd'hui, je dirais que les enjeux de l'agriculture, en particulier de l'agriculture en Afrique aujourd'hui, sont immenses et pratiquement inaccessibles. Et je serais très heureux d'entendre les grands spécialistes qui vont parler après moi, à la fois compléter ou nuancer mon diagnostic, puis ensuite nous parlerons des enjeux de demain et des réponses. Je rappellerai d'abord quelques évidences. La population de la planète va augmenter de 1 milliard à 2 milliards. Elle va passer à 9 milliards et demi d'ici à 2050. La population africaine va passer à quelque chose comme 2 milliards et demi. La population des villes va augmenter massivement. Je rappelle qu'en 2050, le Nigeria aura plus d'habitants que les États-Unis et qu'au rythme actuel, Lagos aura 130 millions d'habitants. Impossible, mais pourtant, c'est inscrit dans les faits. Les villes africaines vont grandir considérablement et pour nourrir cette population à l'échelle mondiale, il semblerait qu'il faille augmenter la production d'au moins 40%, sans tenir compte de toutes les mutations qu'il va falloir avoir, parce que quand le niveau de vie augmente, on ne veut pas consommer la même chose que ce qu'on a consommé avant, sans tenir compte d'une évolution qui aura lieu de toute façon et dont on parlera au niveau des solutions, qui est qu'au moins un quart, sinon un tiers, sinon la moitié de la population de la planète devra être végétarien. Mais on parlera de cela sans doute tout à l'heure. En tout cas, globalement, on pense que la production agricole mondiale devrait augmenter d'au moins 40%. Et pour ces raisons, la production agricole africaine devrait augmenter d'au moins 100%. Elle devrait doubler, sachant qu'à l'heure actuelle, la production agricole de l'Afrique ne nourrit pas l'Afrique, à la fois parce que l'Afrique est une exportatrice nette, large de plus en plus, une importatrice nette, large de plus en plus. Elle importe sa propre nourriture, mais aussi parce que ces terres sont largement, je dirais, vendues, appropriées, et certains diraient spoliées par quelques grandes puissances étrangères. Une grande partie de la production agricole africaine part à l'étranger. Face à cela, est-ce que l'Afrique peut se trouver en situation de nourrir sa population? Au rythme actuel, toujours selon les statistiques des grandes institutions internationales, le nombre de gens qui en Afrique ne mangeront pas à leur faim en 2050 va augmenter d'au moins 60%. Sur une population qui, je rappelle, va passer à 2,5 milliards d'habitants, sans ajouter ce qui sera en matière d'eau et évidemment de conséquences conflictuelles. Est-ce qu'on a les moyens de faire en sorte que la production agricole africaine augmente autant que cela, dans l'état actuel des technologies et au vu de ce qui arrive? Ce qui arrive, c'est une formidable évolution climatique. Ne croyez pas ce qu'on vous dit quand on vous dit que la température de la planète va augmenter d'1,5 degré ou de 2 degrés, c'est pas vrai. Au rythme actuel, c'est au moins 4, ce qui veut dire des écarts d'au moins 10, plus 5, moins 5, ce qui veut dire des températures du sol qui augmenteront au moins de cela, sinon plus. Ça veut dire aussi de très grandes aggravations, surtout des situations des sols dans les pays les plus fragiles. Je ne veux pas vous noyer de chiffres, mais on pense qu'au moins 2 mois des pays les plus fragiles seront à des températures supérieures à 35 degrés. Et je pense que c'est une estimation très, très, très optimiste. Ça sera bien pire que ça. Face à cela, ça signifie évidemment qu'on ne pourra pas cultiver de la même façon sur ces sols. On ne pourra pas non plus augmenter beaucoup les sols à cultiver, à la fois parce qu'ils ne sont pas disponibles, à la fois parce que les villes vont continuer à croître, et aussi parce que, et nous en parlions tout à l'heure avec le professeur Soussan, il y a une contradiction majeure qui est en train de s'installer entre l'objectif d'une capacité de l'Afrique à se nourrir et les autres objectifs écologiques qui sont à la fois de protéger les sols, de développer la forestation et d'organiser la séquestration du carbone. Ces deux objectifs, se nourrir et se protéger, sont apparemment contradictoires. Et on sait que dans l'histoire humaine, quand on a le choix entre se nourrir et autre chose, on choisit toujours se nourrir. Et donc, il est vraisemblable que si on ne change pas très profondément les modes d'organisation de l'agriculture, les organisations technologiques et culturelles et politiques, l'agriculture sera, comme les villes d'ailleurs, l'ennemi du climat, alors qu'on pourrait faire en sorte qu'elle soit son amie. Voilà les grands enjeux que je crois qui sont devant nous, et je serais très heureux qu'on puisse compléter ou nuancer mon analyse pour aller plus loin dans la recherche de solutions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Attali. Thank you for raising this complexity that we're going to face and the challenge that we're going to face in the near future now. I would like now to call next Dr. Daniel Naoun, who is an emeritus professor at Aix-Marseille University, founder of CEREG, the Centre Européen de Recherche des Géosciences de l'Environment, hopefully I pronounced it correctly, former director of research of the French Ministry of Education, Research and Technology with the Minister Claude Allègre, former director of CIRAD, and member of the Academy of Sciences in Brazil and in Morocco, among others. Dr. Naoun, thank you again very much for being here with us today. As we just heard, we have many challenges ahead, especially in Africa. And agriculture is by nature a complex system, with many multiple interactions influencing each other in a continuous loop. What does the climate, energy, water, food nexus mean? And then why healthy soils are the major connector of this nexus?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, I will speak English. Even if you understand French, I will try. The carbon cycle is essential to the maintenance of life, of climate, and to the composition of atmosphere. But the dose makes the poison. The Jules Charney's report, requested by President Carter in 1979, indicated that the atmospheric concentrations of carbon were continuously increasing, stemming from the combustion of fossil fuels and land use, and this would affect the climate. When 10 years after the IPCC was created, the scientists who made it up forgot half of the problem, namely the contribution of land use, focusing their attention only on the combustion of fossil resources. That is to say, on energy. The IPCC's error is not to have considered the importance of land use from the outset and not to evaluate it today at its fair value. The simple and linear reasoning of considering that by stopping the consumption of fossil fuels, we would stop the climate from warming is faulty carbon accounting. No real-world problem can be solved in a linear fashion. All on Earth works by bifurcation. So, global warming must be analyzed in a multimodal way. Everything our universities don't teach. This is why our university must be reorganized into African lighthouses to convey multidisciplinary innovations to small farmers and practitioners. Water security, food security, climate change, loss of biodiversity, ecosystem services delivery, and green energy are our major societal challenges and will never be resolved as long as each issue is considered independently. They should therefore be treated at the same time. It is mandatory to obtain a less carbonaceous atmosphere. The common denominator to all these challenges on which we should act is healthy soil, the only resource that is not renewable on the time of a human life. Healthy soil remaining the only carbon reservoir to be used urgently to impede global warming to soar. Massive digital resources must accompany all these scientific initiatives to collect data of all kinds, refine regional and global models, communicate research results, technological innovations, the state of the markets, to help renewable resources to develop, to make it possible to monitor and quantify in real time the degradation or restoration of the natural environment. In short, they will allow us to act quickly. Sad as it may be, CO2 has a lifespan in the atmosphere which can go up to 100 years. So it will take time to stabilize global warming, and we will have to live in a warmer world for several decades.
Thank you very much, Dr. Daniel Naun, for reminding us the importance of healthy soils and how there is no linear solution for the complex system that we live. And with that, I would like to call now Dr. Terry Roberts. Terry Roberts is the former and the founder of the former president and the founder of the International Plant Nutrition Institute, IPNI. and the head of the advisory board of the Global Phosphorus Institute, GPI. Dr. Terry Roberts, just connecting with what Professor Daniel Naun just brought, that healthy soils are again the major connector of our major societal challenge. Nutrients are source of life, and bringing them on the right way, it's the solution, the source, the foundation of any sustainable agriculture. The mission of IPNI was to develop and promote scientific information about the responsible management of plant nutrition for the benefit of humans. 4R nutrient stewardship was IPNI's core strategy to meet the world's food needs in a sustainable way. Could you please explain what does it mean, what the 4R means, and then how it supports closing yield gaps, reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and increasing soil carbon sequestration? How bringing nutrients on the right way they are the foundation of these sustainable agricultural systems. The floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Leonardus. Applying the right source of plant nutrient at the right rate, at the right time, and in the right place are the core concepts of this idea of 4R nutrient stewardship. Each of these rights is necessary for sustainable management of plant nutrition, and that is management which will sustainably increase crop production, which is vital to food security here in Africa. These fertilizer rights, source, rate, time, and place, are connected to sustainability, to the goals of sustainability by producing economic, environmental, and social outcomes, but within cropping systems. Each of these fertilizer Rs are supported by scientific principles that are global in nature, so they're applicable all over the world, but they're applied locally. They have to be applied at a site-specific basis. For example, one of the key principles associated with determining the right rate of fertilizer to apply is you have to assess the nutrient supply from all sources. You need to know how much nutrients are present in the soil, and you need to assess the plant demand. How this will be done in the Corn Belt in the United States will be different as to how it'll be done in sub-Saharan Africa. But the principle is the same. You still need to determine how much your soil or other sources are going to supply to the crop. If you properly apply these principles of 4R plant nutrition, you will optimize crop production. The key to that is applying the correct amount of fertilizer or other nutrient that a crop needs for a realistic yield goal. So farmers need to know what is the yield goal, what is the yield potential of their particular crop. That is determined by genetics, by the environment, and other things. But a farmer needs to know how much he's going to grow or capable of growing before he can know how much fertilizer or organic nutrients he needs to apply in order to achieve that goal. There is no room for blanket applications when we're talking about sustainable nutrient management. So using the right amount of nutrient helps ensure that nutrient removal by the crop and nutrient input by fertilizer and organic sources are balanced. If you end up with excess nutrients, they can be lost to the environment. If you have inadequate nutrients, that results in nutrient mining. You lose nutrients from the soil, and eventually you'll have a lot of land degradation, which again is a major issue here in Africa. When 4Rs are applied properly, they will help reduce greenhouse gas emissions. This is primarily by helping to increase nutrient use efficiency, especially for nitrogen. If you can increase nutrient use efficiency, you'll reduce losses of those nutrients. So the crop and the soil conditions help determine what the right source of fertilizer or organic nutrient you're using. Sometimes these are slow-release products or products that require inhibitors such as urease or nitrification inhibitors. The source of nutrient that you're using will determine its rate, when you apply it, and where you apply it in the soil. Right rate will prevent over-fertilization. It prevents losses of N2O to the atmosphere. So our goal is to try and manage nutrient use efficiency. We have to remember that nutrients interact with each other. We want to have a balanced application of all plant nutrients. For example, you know that we could increase nitrogen use efficiency if we apply it together with phosphorus. But our nutrients also interact with the cropping system. So if you're practicing conservation agricultural practices, that is going to impact how you manage your nutrients. In terms of carbon sequestration, anytime we can increase crop yields, we will produce more roots, more biomass, more residues, which will capture more carbon. Carbon and nitrogen, though, are closely linked together in the soil. You cannot sequester carbon in the soil without adding more nitrogen. The soil has to maintain a carbon to nitrogen ratio. We know that adding nitrogen and phosphorus will increase carbon sequestration and slow the natural losses of carbon that occur when we till our soils. So these scientific principles that support 4Rs are the same all over the world. However, how they're put into practice locally will vary with the soil, the climate, the weather you have, economic conditions, and the management capacity of the farmers. Farmers need help selecting the right practices for their farm. They need good advice, and those who are giving the advice need to be well trained.
Thank you very much, Dr. Terry Roberts. It's great to hear again remind us the importance of nutrients for the sustainable agriculture, to sequester more carbon, how carbon sequestration in the soil depends on nutrients. So it's not only carbon. And that actually, there is already a tool that would allow us to do so. Thank you very much for your insights on the 4Rs. Then my next question now goes to Dr. Dimitris Bertsimas. Dr. Dimitris is Associate Dean of Business Analytics, the Boeing Professor of Operations Research, and the Director of the Master of Business Analytics program at MIT. Thank you for being here today with us, Dr. Dimitris. And well, talking about all this complexity right now, it's complexity from applying nutrients, complexity from dealing with the soils, the challenge that we're going to face. During your career, you have applied artificial intelligence in a variety of fields. In recent years, you have developed methods for digital agriculture. How can artificial intelligence improve food security in general and in Africa in particular?
Thank you very much for the invitation. Before I respond, I would like to make a few remarks about UM6P. I have visited UM6P about a decade ago. It was primarily only land here. I would like to acknowledge the tremendous progress the university has made and congratulate the community for this progress. It is really astonishing. So I have worked in AI for several decades. The vision has been to contribute to some of the significant problems of our times, and one of the most important is food security. Working with some of my doctoral students at MIT and together with OCP, we created the company called Ground Truth Analytics. Working with OCP, we have collected data using about 500 agents across Africa, about 500,000 parcels from 7 countries in Africa: Senegal, Ivory Coast, Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, and Rwanda, and Morocco, of course. And there are 2 more coming, Tanzania and Ethiopia. I was hoping we can show the video I have
We should have the video now. While Dr. Bertsimas gives his speech.
Is somebody working on it? We hope.
Yes, coming.
Okay. So we have developed a software that you see. I won't comment directly, but you hopefully have a sense. So there are several models we have built using AI. The agents have collected data about many aspects of the particular parcels. So the first is we have now satellite data, and using the satellite data across the globe, across Africa, our first module is field delineation. This is the drawing of the boundaries for all parcels in the country. This way, we know what is the arable land in that country. The second aspect is crop detection, which you see at the moment. This is based on satellite information. We detect what crop is being produced in a particular location. This utilizes artificial intelligence, where we use the data that the agents collected. We know, for example, that they have rice in this area or others in other areas. And then we build a method that only on using satellite information has crop detection. Third, we have also built a system that does what's called phenomenological phasing. That is, we detect during the season what is the state of growth for each crop and whether the growth is proceeding appropriately. This enables us to have better visibility on how successful across the country, in every parcel, the progress of the plant is progressing. You see it at the moment. In addition, we have weather information we collect. And this is over time. We know the temperature, we know the precipitation, and also vegetation indices. You will see it a bit later in the video. So these are 4 things we have already completed. And we are also working on yield prediction at the farmer's level, but correspondingly at the country level. And most importantly, optimizing the yield for the farmer by selecting which appropriate fertilizer, which crops, and in what rotation. Finally, we aspire, we haven't built it yet, build a system that advises farmers on insurance, lending, seeds, and irrigation. Regarding the impact of these digital tools, trying to answer the question that Leonardo asked me. So they enable governments to monitor the season and react accordingly. For example, once you detect that the season is not going to be particularly successful at the country level, you can actually plan for food imports. Also, if you detect from a phenological stage that the plants are not progressing appropriately, you might prevent widespread disease by pesticides. You can also inform policy shaping. For example, what type of crops in particular regions, planning for infrastructure, also shaping the supply chain, develop access to water resources and infrastructure. And finally, incentivize farmers for best formulas for fertilizers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bertisimas, for this great tool, which is again the AI helping us to solve the issues that the challenge that we're gonna face ahead of us, and already connecting with again a great tool to also support the correct management of nutrients as well. Thank you very much. My next question now goes to Mr. Elias El-Fali, the Head of Corporate Strategy, Sustainability and Innovation of OCP Group. Thank you very much, Mr. Elias El-Fali, to be here with us today. OCP Group is taking a science-based approach and developing the solutions to support this agricultural transformation, working with the farmers. Could you give us a sense of this challenge and a quick overlook of OCP's efforts to decarbonize agriculture? Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Leonardo, for leaving me to the end, because I think I feel the ground has been prepared by my fellow panelists. And I'll start my intervention with where Mr. Attali ended his, on this epochal challenge that's facing the world today. How can we feed an ever-growing population, expected to reach 10 billion people by 2050, with less arable lands and without destroying environment? This is really one of the major challenges that humankind is facing today. So population is growing, clearly. Arable lands are decreasing because we need to stop deforestation. So we need to increase yields. The problem is that if we do the same way we did in the past, in the previous green revolutions, using intensive application of fertilizers, extensive land use, this will take a toll on environment. Soils are degrading. Daniel reminded us that soils are a non-renewable resource, at least not in our lifetime. A third of global soils are degraded because mainly of nutrient deficiencies, of erosion, years of mismanagement, over-application of standard fertilizers, global warming, greenhouse gas emissions, and Terry touched on that as well. When you applied and balanced fertilizer formulas, nitrogen fertilizers evaporate to the atmosphere and contribute to global warming. And the problem here is that agriculture is also one of the most vulnerable sectors to global warming. So we see here the contradiction, but the driving conviction we have at OCP is that we can solve this problem, and we can solve it through customized fertilization and soil health improvement. When we customize fertilizers, and today, let me just remind you that almost half of global soils are still limited by phosphorus deficiency. So it limits yields, but it also causes, this imbalance causes GHG emissions. So when balancing this, we increase yields and we lower the greenhouse gas emissions. Customization is also cost-effective. Cost-effective because we apply only the nutrient that we need, that the plant needs, and also because of what Dimitris just said. Technology today can allow us to customize at a lower cost because we can use AI, remote sensing, and many other technologies that were not available in the past. So when we balance nutrients in the soil, then we can bring sustainable practices in order to store carbon in the soil, okay? And the potential here is immense. We're talking about 10 to 20% of what the world emits annually that could be sequestered in the soils. And so agriculture has the potential to move from being a contributor to global warming to being a solution, to being a carbon sink, right? So definitely there is a way to bring global food security and sustainability or climate action in culture, and we think that, the way for that is customized fertilizers and soil health.
Thank you very much, Mr. El Fali, for this, for reminding us of how agriculture can and will become part of our important solutions, and then how, again, OCP is working towards helping the farmers to take all these technologies, all these capabilities, and all these tools available so we can work with them to change, to action on this, to do the actions on this transformation of agriculture. Thank you very much for all of you. Now I would like to go back to Mr. Attali. Mr. Attali, by the end of the next decade, again, we have been talking a lot about AI now. What would be the impact of AI, robots, and drones in agriculture? Would it support farmers or would it replace them? As we often hear that the green revolution bypassed Africa, will this new revolution include Africa? And thank you very much again for your views. The floor is yours.
I switch back to French, if you don't mind. Merci. D'abord, j'ai beaucoup appris de ce qui a été dit. Je suis d'accord avec la quasi-totalité de ce qui a été dit, en particulier à la fin par Ilias. S'il permet, avec un seul petit différence, mais je pense qu'il sera d'accord avec moi, c'est que je n'aime pas utiliser le mot fertilizer pour ce qui vient du phosphate. Pour moi, c'est des nutriments, ce n'est pas des engrais. Je préfère réserver le mot engrais à ce qui vient ce qui est lié à l'azote, c'est qu'il y a un usage complètement différent. Et donc, je préfère qu'on utilise le mot nutriments, mais sur tout le reste, y compris là-dessus, je pense que nous sommes entièrement d'accord. Sur ce qu'on peut attendre des progrès en matière de technologie agricole, Bien sûr, on peut en attendre énormément. Et beaucoup de choses ont déjà été dites. On peut attendre énormément de l'intelligence artificielle sur toutes les différentes dimensions de l'agriculture qui peuvent être gérées par l'Internet Internet of Things et la gestion des données. De même, sur les drones, on peut attendre beaucoup, et c'est en train de venir, avec la gestion des drones à la fois pour surveiller et pour organiser même la distribution des nutriments. Il y a énormément de choses à en attendre. Pour la machinerie automatique aussi, automatisée, l'utilisation de l'intelligence artificielle pour cette machinerie automatisée, ça va faire des progrès considérables. L'usage des satellites, qui a déjà commencé à faire énormément de choses, va jouer un rôle très important, je crois, de progrès, et en particulier pour tout ce qui est ce que Ilias appelait Customized Fertilizer. Il y a aussi des dimensions de science-fiction qui sont en train de venir, qui sont l'agriculture du désert, l'agriculture de la mer, le vertical farming, les viandes artificielles, les insectes, tout ça jouera un rôle très important et on peut attendre certainement beaucoup de ça. Mais je dirais qu'il y a aussi d'autres éléments qu'il faut prendre en considération. D'abord, ce qui a été dit sur les engrais ou les nutriments sur mesure, c'est très important. Surtout quand on sait que l'Afrique est le continent où on utilise moins de nutriments que tous les autres continents. Deuxièmement, parce que l'usage des engrais naturels, qu'on a trop oublié, des composts et de tout ce qui est vraiment la nature, j'ai entendu beaucoup d'experts me dire la meilleure chose qu'on puisse faire à la nature, c'est de ne pas la toucher et la laisser vivre par elle-même. Et c'est elle qui va se restaurer. Et puis il y a trois dimensions qui me paraissent très importantes, qu'il ne faut pas oublier. Le premier, c'est que nous gaspillons 40% de la nourriture. Donc c'est bien de dire qu'il faut augmenter, doubler, mais si déjà on éliminait les 40% de gaspillage, on aurait réglé une grande partie du problème. 40% de la nourriture fabriquée sur la planète n'est pas consommée. Donc il y a un énorme problème de gestion qui est en cause. Deuxièmement, qu'est-ce qu'on mange? Si on veut aller à une consommation où on mangerait dans 30 ans autant de viande et autant de sucre qu'on en mange en France ou au Maroc, on n'y arrivera pas. Et ça tombe bien, la viande et le sucre sont des poisons. Je répète, la viande et le sucre sont des poisons. Et donc, nous avons tout intérêt à manger moins de viande, presque pas, à manger moins de sucre, presque pas. Accessoirement, c'est bon pour la santé, c'est bon pour l'environnement, et ça permet de rendre plus facile la solution des problèmes de l'alimentation de la planète. Et enfin, un dernier point qui me paraît essentiel, c'est tout le problème de la formation des paysans, de la formation des femmes en particulier à la campagne qui ne sont pas formées, de la propriété des sols. Si les sols étaient davantage la propriété des paysans et non pas de grandes exploitations de centaines de milliers d'hectares, on y arriverait beaucoup mieux. C'est donc plus encore que dans les progrès techniques, dans les mutations culturelles et politiques que se situeront les solutions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Attal, for these great insights. And I will call back now Dr. Daniel Naoun. Dr. Naoun, looking to the future that it's taking shape with this new agricultural revolution, the use of robots, drones, AI, how do you think this will affect soil health? How to make sure that all this technological transformation ensures a sustainable agriculture that will support the farmers on their quest to produce food in a sustainable way? Is bringing soils to our policies enough? How do we do this?
Merci. Just one word in French to say for Mr. Attali that the agriculture have been invented about 12,000 years ago by women. Okay, well, thank you. The new agricultural revolution that is taking shape must, above all, avoid the mistakes that were made by the first green revolution from which India benefited. If we were able to eliminate the great famine responsible for many victims, the first green revolution was destructive of healthy soils because we adapted Western techniques. Let's take the example of Africa, where the population is likely to shortly double and therefore be a beneficiary of the new generative green agriculture revolution. We know now that African soils are different from European soils. The latter are healthier, resulting in more crops per unit of land with higher water use efficiency. This is why African soil must be worked differently and why the use of fertilizers is essential. We know that droughts, water shortages, food needs, erosion of arable soil, desert advance, access to electricity, deforestation, and loss of biodiversity are most acute. We are facing a harsh reality. The African per capita food production continues to decline, resulting in progressive increase in food import, despite having 60% of world's arable soil reserves. Besides the food security itself, almost 70% of the African population are one way or another associated with agriculture and relying on it for their livelihood. These are compelling reasons for priority must be given to Africa in improving soil health, which is the cornerstone for the greening of Africa, and to make Africa be able to meet the Sustainable Development Goals in the face of climate change. But to succeed in the green transition in Africa and to leave no one behind, economic, social, and environmental development must come together. No green transition can really take place if we do not review the economic system, which itself is at the base of the degradation of natural and social wealth. The GDP is 90 years old. It is a measurement of social performance perfectly correlated with the development of fossil fuel energy. We must know the real price of food production. That is, we must give a cost to fresh water, to healthy soil, to biodiversity, to air quality, to forest, and include it in the calculation of the measurement of social performance as recommended for more than 10 years by the World Bank. Finally, for this to be successful, 3 dimensions are of paramount importance: education, good governance, and ethical standards to ensure respect for human rights, gender equality, the rule of law, transparency, and responsiveness. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Daniel Naoun. It's great to remind everybody of this, the different soils that we have around the world, and that, again, especially the African soils, they're among the oldest soils that we can have, that they don't need the same solutions. They cannot take the same solutions for the richer soils from the north. And also to remind us that actually the problems, the environmental problems, they are related to this, the KPI that we have for a long time, which is the GDP. As there is no value for healthy soils or for clean air or clean water, how can we bring them to our economies? So again, changing this GDP is a very important component. I would like to go now to Dr. Terry Roberts again. Given the importance of the 4 Rs, as you just brought, as the foundation of sustainable agriculture, are the 4 Rs applied everywhere in its full potential? If not, why is that? Why so? Why we don't do that? What do we need to collectively do in order to upscale the application of 4 Rs globally? How can we measure the progress of the application of the 4 Rs towards the Paris Agreement? The floor is yours. Thank you.
So let me give you a little background. When the International Plant Nutrition Institute first introduced the idea of 4 Rs, they were very quickly endorsed and adopted by the global fertilizer industry. But the global introduction to the farming community and others really began when we developed and released a 4R plant nutrition manual, which outlined the scientific principles that support 4R practices. So this manual has been translated into French, Portuguese, Spanish, Russian, Mandarin, Hindi, a variety of other languages. And so IPNI was able to, through this manual, introduce 4Rs into China, India, Southeast Asia, throughout Latin America, of course, North America. And we also introduced it into Africa. We haven't been in Africa with 4Rs for very long, but the African Plant Nutrition Institute, which is an offshoot of IPNI, is continuing those research and education efforts in Africa on 4Rs. There's an international certified crop advisor program, and they adopted 4Rs in their program of certification for crop advisors. And a couple of years ago, the U.S. Congress put into the U.S. Farm Bill incentives for farmers and ag retailers to implement 4R practices. In Canada, they have a program called the Nitrous Oxide Reduction Protocol. Its acronym is NERP. And this NERP program is a tool to help farmers reduce N2O emissions in order to help Canada meet their international commitments and standards for carbon offsets. So this NERP program is delivered through the implementation of 4Rs. That is the basis for it. Through Fertilizer Canada and the Cooperative Development Foundation of Canada, the Government of Canada is funding a $17 million project in Ethiopia, Ghana, and Senegal, whose purpose is to increase crop productivity and farm income for 80,000 smallholder farmers. It's directed predominantly towards women. And the basis for that is 4R nutrient stewardship. The African Plant Nutrition Institute is the delivery agent for this program on the ground. So there's been a lot of success in introducing 4Rs and adoption of 4Rs in the last decade, but there is still much to do. 4Rs have not reached their full potential. Part of the challenge, and I think it's been expressed by our panel already, is education. We need to educate regulators, policymakers. We need to educate advisors. The fertilizer industry needs to be better educated. Farmers need to be educated, and other stakeholders who are interested in nutrient management and sustainable crop production. I said earlier that these 4Rs are interconnected with each other, but together they have to work with the surrounding environment of soil, plant, climate, and management capacity of those using them. Although fertility is essential to soil productivity, not all fertile soils are productive. Poor drainage, drought, pests, weeds, diseases, poor genetics, all of these different things can limit productivity, even though you might be implementing the 4Rs to the best of your ability. So, as I said earlier, 4Rs are intended to be used within a cropping system. So farmers have to practice overall good agronomic management if they want to get the best out of the nutrients that they're applying. 4Rs, I would say, are globally recognized, but they are not yet fully implemented. Some areas do not have access to the needed nutrient sources. That's a big problem in Africa. You might not be able to get the fertilizer that you want, the specific blend that you need, at the time that you need it. Some areas do not have access to soil testing or other means of assessing what the crop nutrient requirements might be, or even what the yield potential of the crop is. Some areas do not have the equipment that they might need to properly place the fertilizers where they need to be placed. Farmers may not have access to credit, or they may not have access to markets to incentivize them to increase their productivity. So the question is, how do we scale up 4Rs around the world? Well, we do it one farmer, one village, one region at a time. Favorable government policies and an infrastructure in place, with the support of the fertilizer industry, they have to be involved, and potentially incentives for farmers to adopt these type of practices. How do we measure progress? Well, we have to identify and quantify performance indicators of sustainability. That could be crop productivity. It could be soil health, as we've already talked about. It could be nutrient use efficiency, nitrogen use efficiency, and phosphorus use efficiency. Could be in how we reduce greenhouse gas emissions. We need more evidence-based databases and case studies documenting that 4Rs work. The research on 4Rs, as I said initially, the principles behind 4Rs are globally researched. We know a lot about them. But the practices on the ground, the local adaptation, that is what requires more time and effort. And I was excited to learn that our audience today has a lot of university students. Those of you that are just beginning your careers, I think there's tremendous opportunity for you to make your mark in Africa, helping Africa to better manage its nutrients, to sustainably increase its crop productivity while protecting the environment. We know that 4Rs will do that. And so that is the challenge that we all have, to do what's best for our environment while we're still feeding the approximately 280 million Africans that are undernourished today.
Thank you very much, Dr. Terry Roberts. It's very great to hear that, again, we have tools, we have solutions that they are proven, scientific proven, they are recognized, they work, but that we still don't have them working everywhere. So it's also another great opportunity for us to keep pushing for the 4Rs, developing them, and as you said, working on education, bringing the 4Rs, the correct use of nutrients to the policies, working with the governments, educating all of them, and the great support and need for the youth to take this on charge as well. Thank you very much for your contributions on this. Now I'm going to go back to Dr. Bert Simas. So we have been hearing a lot. So we are having this special event with the World Bank and then the IMF here in Marrakesh. And very often, so we talk about all this agricultural revolution that we are discussing here. We are now requesting the farmers not only to have only one product, which is food, but we are requesting them to take care of the soils, take care of the water, and then to do this change, to adapt this new agriculture that we are looking for, this requires finance as well, right? And then all the time when we are discussing these type of things, we reach the wall that is, we need to de-risk financing going to agriculture. You brought a great tool already, so can you elaborate more on how AI can help us de-risking the food value chain from governments to financial institutions to farmers?
Thank you, Leonardo. Before I proceed to answering the question, I would like also to acknowledge the large number of young people in the audience. And I have two messages for that. I believe that AI has made significant progress over the years, and more is coming. And I would like to invite you guys, the young people of all ages in the audience, to learn more about the power of AI in helping solve some of the most critical problems of our times, food security, what we are discussing, but also climate change and healthcare, among others. My second message that I would like to give you an example for is that something I learned in my life, both as a professor and as an entrepreneur, is to be adaptive, to change the direction when new phenomena occur. So an example is we started with satellites, and satellites in certain countries, Ivory Coast is an example, have difficulties in seeing when there are clouds, and there are clouds in many areas. So as a result, we recently used radar to improve our accuracy. We saw it briefly in the video, and currently we are looking into drones. In addition, connecting with some of my colleagues mentioned, the agents collect soil samples, which we analyze, and they become inputs for the various predictions and also decisions for customizing fertilizers I mentioned earlier. Now, regarding the question that Leonardo's asked me regarding de-risking. So for governments, as I mentioned, we depict the entire country via satellite images. So governments have now an understanding of the overall agricultural production by crop, by location, dynamically as the season progresses. This dynamic information can reveal areas I mentioned earlier where disease is present and can prompt the dynamic applications of pesticides. Also deciding where to prioritize water resources. Given that many African countries are agricultural in nature, these AI tools provide an X-ray of the country and offer an understanding of the expected revenue at the country level with enough time to take actions and de-risk the economy. So given that this is the week of the World Bank conference, it seems, at least to me, that these AI tools can become an essential tool for de-risking the overall economy of the country when it's primarily agricultural. Now, for financial institutions, I also believe that understanding yield prediction when it's time to write insurance policies and provide loans gives you a far more accurate understanding of what the future financially will be for the farmer and for the insurance and loan payments they provide. Clearly, that's a de-risking proposition. Finally, and most importantly, for farmers, the tools provide recommendations, as I mentioned, what crops, in what rotations over time, what fertilizers to maximize yield, clearly de-risking their operations. In my view, digital tools contribute to improve yield and therefore increase income for farmers and significantly decrease their own risk. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bert Simas. And we're now going to move towards the end of our panel here. The discussion has been great, but I'm going to go back to Mr. Elias El-Fari. OCP Group is taking all this complexity that it was talked about today here into perspective and translating it into a doctrine the group is following. Could you give us some concrete examples of how the OCP approach has been supporting farmers to increase productivity while taking better care of the environment, particularly in sub-Saharan Africa? What do you need to scale up these examples?
Well, our mission at OCP, as I mentioned earlier, is to accelerate the transition to a climate-positive, high-productivity agriculture, to summarize it, okay? And we think this is possible through customized fertilization and soil health improvement. And you're right to pointing out to Africa because, I mean, this is where we think there is the highest chances for this to happen, right? So there are certain figures we are all familiar with now. Africa is home to 60% of the world unused arable lands. Yields in Africa are a quarter of world average. The fertilizer usage in Africa is a tenth of the world average. So the potential there for improvement is huge. And in Africa, we can also afford not to follow the standard historical paths and to invent a new way of doing agriculture. So going back to your question, how to scale up, I would summarize it in 4 points. First one is to be present and to show commitment to agriculture in Africa. This is what we did early on, a few years ago, when we created OCP Africa, dedicated subsidiary to Africa, and committed also a capacity, production capacity to Africa, Because, I mean, as you may know, Africa used to be the last market to be served, especially in situations of supply tensions. So in order to allow the supply chains to form, investment to come, we need to commit that we will be there in all situations. And even this year, we committed to dedicate 4 million ton capacity to Africa if need is there, okay? Second element is to work with multiple stakeholders across the value chain. Governments first, because there is clearly a policy and strategy component to it, but also other stakeholders in order to build ecosystems around the farmer. Third element is farmer centricity. We think we cannot transform agriculture without centering all the approach on the farmer, the farmer's pain points. So I mean, UM6P Africa here is doing a great job designing customized service offering to the farmer, referring to Agri-Booster program, for example. And the fourth and the final element I'm thinking of is leveraging science and technology. What Demetrius just said is of paramount importance. We need to leverage all those technologies that can be applied today, because we don't have any legacy to manage, and we can afford to start on the right foot from the beginning. And also science, because while agriculture is well studied and understood in the north, it does not apply systematically to tropical soils in Africa, for example. And the university that's hosting us today is just an example of what is needed in terms of commitment and investment in science in order to support this transformation in Africa.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fali. So it's great to hear all these the concrete examples that you have, especially for Africa, but how really UM6P, it's walking the talk and then bringing solutions that is going to, again, all of them together, they're going to unleash the full potential of Africa in really connecting food security with climate action and other several SDGs as well. So with this, we approach the end of this panel. So I would like to thank all the panelists here for this great discussion. I think it's very clear for everybody how sustainable agriculture, especially bringing healthy soils, it's actually the foundation of our solutions towards the Sustainable Development Goals. So again, this marks the end of our panel. On behalf of UM6P, I would like to thank all of you and thank all the participants as well. So I would like already to start inviting to join me here. I'm going to start with Tvanit Suri, Professor of Economics at MIT, Chair of Agriculture at JPAL. Please take your seat, Tvanit. I would also like to invite here to the stage Iqbal Dhaliwal, Executive Director of JPAL Global. And lastly, but not least, I would like to invite back again to the stage President of UM6P, Mr. Hisham El Habdi. Today, right now, we're going to be launching the UM6P JPAL Agricultural Lab for Africa. Please take your seats. We should start. So I would like to welcome on stage Professor Tavnit, who will be heading this lab to give us a short presentation on the lab's scope. Thank you, Professor Tavnit.
How are you?
Good,
Nice to see you.
you.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. Sorry for the surprise change of plans. But we're really happy to be here. I'm a faculty member at MIT, and I chair the agricultural sector at JPAL, the Poverty Action Lab at MIT. And we're here just to do a brief announcement. We'll be partnering with UM6P to set up a brand new agriculture lab. It's called Ujala, as you can see on the slide there. It's the UM6P JPAL Agricultural Lab for Africa. And we're really excited to be launching that collaboration today with funding from OCP Foundation. The aim of the lab is to really try and understand across sub-Saharan Africa some of the issues facing farmers and the issues around food security. How can we improve food security across the continent? And how can we use that sort of using rigorous randomized controlled trials to study some of the questions? The set of questions spans a wide range from how do we optimally design fertilizer subsidies, how do we customize fertilizer, what are the benefits that accrue to farmers, what are the potentially unanticipated costs they see, what drives them to adopt new technologies, what prevents them from adopting these new technologies, and how do we solve those issues, and how do we think about market access and the availability of inputs and output markets for farmers. We're hoping that over this collaboration, we'll build a whole set of studies across various countries in Africa that allow us to bring evidence to policy and make much better policy around agriculture as we try to think of improving food security across the continent. I'll stop there and hand back to Leonidas. We're really excited about this and really looking forward to this collaboration with UM6P. I guess I'm handing over to you.
Thank you so much. So just announced, so we're here to unveil a very promising initiative aimed at enhancing food security in sub-Saharan Africa. Here at UM6P, we have joined hands with the Abdul Latif Jamil Poverty Action Lab, or GPAL, to launch this UM6P GPAL Agricultural Lab for Africa, UJALA. So keep in mind this name. UJALA's core mission, as it has been said, is to perform rigorous evaluations of policies and programs to bolster food security across sub-Saharan Africa. This collaborative venture is timely, addressing the urgent challenges our continent faces in ensuring accessible, nutritious food for all. This initiative will foster innovative research in collaboration with the GPAL's network of economists, zoning in on 5 key policy areas. Firstly, UJALA will examine the design and delivery of effective food and agricultural subsidies to enhance their impact and reach. Secondly, it will assess the merits of customizing fertilizers to cater the specific needs of crops and soil conditions, a crucial step towards sustainable agriculture. Thirdly, UJALA will aim to reduce the reliance of low-income households on imported food, fostering economic resilience and self-sufficiency. Fourthly, the lab will tackle the hurdles faced by farmers in adopting and sustaining new agricultural technologies and practices, propelling productivity and sustainability. Lastly, UJALA strives to link farmers to markets offering competitive prices, ensuring their diligence translates into economic gains. But UJALA goes beyond research. It's about disseminating the knowledge and insights garnered from these evaluations broadly, ensuring both the public and the private sectors are equipped for informed decision-making. Through strategic collaboration with private sector partners across Africa, UJALA aspires to uplift food security for small-scale farmers, scale up successful programs, and champion evidence-based decision-making in agriculture. In a sense, UJALA is poised to bridge critical gaps in policy and research landscape, contributing to the well-being of low-income individuals across sub-Saharan Africa. Together, we envision a future where no one goes hungry, agriculture flourishes sustainably, and evidence eliminates our path towards a more food-secure Africa. Thank you for your attention, and really, I look forward to the remarkable journey Ujala embarks on, dedicated to serving our dear continent. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Suri and President El Habti. So my name is Iqbal Dhaliwal. I'm the Global Executive Director of the Abdul Latif Jameel Poverty Action Lab. It's a center at MIT's Economics Department in Cambridge in the US. But before I get into my two remarks, I just want to say thank you very much to the people of Morocco and to the country of Morocco for hosting us. This has been time of great adversity for you because of the earthquake, and all of us, at least in the US and other parts of the world, have looked at how you have made so much effort on the recovery and the rebuilding effort. So our heart goes out to all the affected people, and thank you for having us. I just wanted to say that the launch of Ujala is so coincided with the work that JPAL does. We were founded at MIT 20 years ago in 2003 with a single mission, and that mission was, we have been trying to fight poverty, we have been trying to fight climate change for so many decades, and while a lot of progress has been made, so much more needs to be done. And so can evidence, can rigorous science, can research play an even bigger role in social policy than it has in the past? And the way we have approached, there are many, many ways to approach this, many very good ways, but the way JPAL has approached this is through randomized controlled trials or experiments. Many of you are agriculture economists, so you know, or work in agriculture, so you know about RCTs very well, but the entire thing being, let's try and find causality in a much more rigorous way. So this was founded by Professors Abhijit Banerjee, Esther Duflo, and Sendil Mullainathan at MIT. And then we were so fortunate to have professors like Tavneet Suri join us in this journey. We now have 1,600 projects all over the world in areas like agriculture, education, health, finance. Many of them are on this continent. And we don't stop at just research, but we do a lot of work in policy outreach to make sure that this research doesn't stay only in academic papers, but goes into policy. And we have invested a lot of time and effort in capacity building through many, many courses on the continent, including in Africa. So we're looking forward to all of this. The efforts have led to more than 1,600 evaluations, 600 million people reached, and as many of you know, 4 years ago, our founders, Abhijit Banerjee and Esther Duflo, won the Nobel Prize in economics for exactly the work that I just talked to you about. But none of this work would have been possible without our researchers like Professor Suri. It wouldn't have been possible without staff like Florencia and Emily, my colleagues who are here. It wouldn't have been possible without our funders and our field partners like OCP. And most importantly, it would not have been possible without our host universities. Our host universities like Paris School of Economics for Europe, University of Cape Town for Africa, American University of Cairo for Middle East and North Africa, and now, most importantly, UM6P. So I am so very grateful to OCP Foundation and Chairman Mustafa Terab, so grateful to UM6P and President Hisham El Habti for his support, and to Professor Tavneet Suri for agreeing to lead the Ujala initiative. I can't wait to see all the wonderful things that will come for it. And once again, thanks to all of you for hosting us. Thank you.
I think we are good, yes. Thank you, everybody. We wish great luck and success to JPAL Africa Lab. Thank you, everybody. So again, we wish a great success to JPAL Agricultural Lab for Africa. And now I'm going to give the floor to Manal Bernossi, who is going to be the moderator of the Sustainability High-Level Dialogues. Thank you very much. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, please stay with us a little bit longer. We have still a wonderful line of speakers that are going to be joining me in just a second. It is such a pleasure and an honor to be standing before you in this wonderful, wonderful venue. So this morning, we were at the AgriChain Investment in Africa Forum. And there is a lot happening actually today at UM6P. And we will be holding the closing session of this inaugural edition of the AgriChain Investment Forum, brought to you by Innovex and OCP Africa in just a few moments right after this session. So please stay in the room. It is definitely worth your time. And there is a lot of really important content and information to share with you. So the Voice of Africa High-Level Sustainability Dialogues actually started a few weeks back. We started with 2 webinars with a lot of engagement from the audience, actually. We started with also experts sharing with us their views on the importance of adopting an integrated approach. We shared our thoughts on the African perspective with regards to sustainability. And both replays are available for you at the UM6P YouTube channel. So if you want to learn more about that, go check them out. It is definitely worth your time. So today, without further ado, I would like to welcome to the stage a wonderful lineup of speakers. They bring us their expertise, they bring us their insights. So please join me in giving a very, very warm welcome to Erin Grover. She is an expert in carbon innovation, focusing on blockchain and AI-verified carbon credits and smart supply chain solutions for agriculture. Erin is also a member of the Blockchain and Carbon Working Group within the World Economic Forum. And before her work in blockchain, she spent over a decade working with organizations like the United Nations, USAID, and international NGOs. Let's give her a round of applause. Welcome to you, Erin. Thank you. There you are. Now it is my pleasure to introduce to you Mr. Alpha Barry, who is the CEO of Atos Africa. During his 30 years of experience in the information technology sector, Alpha Barry has held several finance management positions in West Africa, in Senegal, Cameroon, Côte d'Ivoire, the Caribbean, and Europe. And before taking the reins of the company of the African continent, he was CEO of Atos International Network. It is such a pleasure to have you with us today. Thank you for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Klaus Lesinger is with us here today. He is the founder and president of the Global Values Alliance Foundation. He is professor emeritus at the University of Basel in Switzerland and continues to research and teach business ethics and corporate responsibility for sustainable development at various universities. He serves as an advisor to the UM6P. And he has also advised so many other high-level delegates. It's such an honor to meet you, sir. Now we're welcoming to the stage Ismail Tekin, who is the originator of the World Impact Forum. Ismail is a UAE-based entrepreneur. He is driven by a commitment to unite global impactors for purposeful change. He has long envisaged a community where the next generation of leaders meet, and the World Impact Forum brings that community to life. It's a platform for passionate people. Welcome to you, Ismail. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're welcoming to the stage Mrs. Hanan Murshid, who serves as the Chief Sustainability Officer at OCP Group and previously held the role of Executive Director of Sustainability and Green Industrial Development in the Moroccan phosphate and fertilizer industry. During her career, Hanan demonstrated expertise in process and industrial performance management, and now she collaborates with her team to integrate sustainability into OCP's decision-making process. Thank you for joining us today, Hanan. Last but certainly not least, we have with us Mr. Salim Musaddiqin, who is Director of Business Development at Innovex. He brings over 12 years of international experience in 4 continents, in Europe, US, Middle East, and Africa, going from R&D strategy consulting to industrial gas project management. At Innovex, he is leading the Circular Carbon Program, with a focus on carbon capture and synthetic fuels. Welcome to you, Salim. Thank you, and again, welcome to you all. So we are tight on schedule this evening, and we're really looking forward to your insights, so let's get this started. Hanan Murshid, my first question goes to you. As we want to set the stage, can we start by defining sustainability from an African perspective? Why is it crucial for Africa? Why is it no longer an option, but an imperative for the Africans' growth?
Thank you very much. Very pleased to be part of this panel and this journey today. So, first of all, sustainability has broad definitions, different definitions. Some are seeing sustainability through the 17 SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. Others are defining it, the prosperity of people and planet, and so on. One of the definitions that actually captured my attention is sustainability being the ability to meet the needs of the present generation without compromising the future of future generations. This means that it's a very context-specific definition and approach that should take in account unique challenges, opportunities, cultural differences, and diversities, etc. When it comes to Africa, it's a specific continent with specific subjects. And this is why when we talk about sustainability, any attempt to strategize sustainability starts by defining materiality. What is material to you? What is material to your stakeholders, to individuals around you, to your communities? The subjects that are material to Africa are not necessarily the ones that are material to the Western countries. I'm thinking, for example, about the food security challenge. It's, for me, one of the first topics that sustainability should address in African continent in general, while sometimes there is a derivate, let's say, addressing the healthy diets, healthy foods, how populations should cut meat, how move to more, let's say, ecologic meals and so on, which is not a priority for the African continent. Food security in Africa is more about affordability, nutrition, food availability, quantities, and then quality. This is why sustainability for me in Africa should tackle this main challenge of food security, then should tackle inclusiveness of communities, how to include young people, education, women in the wealth creation process, how to create wealth, how to create economic added value. Agriculture is definitely one of the solutions because it's a big sector in Africa. Africa is today presenting more than 60% of the arable lands in the world. So this is a competitive advantage for this continent, enabling this value creation, this youth and communities inclusiveness, while addressing quantity and affordability. I would like also to talk about one more challenge for me, that is economic stability, very important today with all the discussion on immigration, on the climate crisis in the Sahel, and how to make agriculture resilient to climate change, to keep people locally, to give them opportunity to live with economic revenues from their own countries, and then how to manage natural resources in the African continent, since not only Africa is relying on its natural resources, but the world is relying on natural resources coming from Africa. So sustainable management of African resources and African raw materials is also an important topic to me. Thank you.
There we go. Thank you very much. So thank you so much for underlining the specifics of the continent, and we'll follow up with more questions with you in just a second. Thank you again, Mrs. Morshid. I'm giving you a heads up now. This conversation is going to be both in English and in French, so if you ever need the headset, please just raise your hand and someone from the team will help you. And there are some headsets for you back there. I can see someone needing a headset here in the front row. If we can please help him, team, that would be amazing. Alors, je switch en français. We're embracing the cultural diversity of our continent, right? So I'll be switching from French to English. Monsieur Alpha Barry, vous dites, je vis le sujet de la sustainability depuis mon plus jeune âge, en tant que jeune sénégalais depuis tout petit. Et donc, ce qui nous intéresse là aujourd'hui, c'est d'avoir votre témoignage personnel et votre perspective sur la sustainability. Comment est-ce que vous la définissez? Merci.
Merci. Je peux switcher en anglais si vous préférez, hein, parce que s'il y a des gens qui ont besoin de mettre un casque, je peux switcher en anglais. So,
à votre aise, on est équipé pour les deux.
Okay, I will do it in English. I see my colleagues putting their casks. So let's go in English. First, I would like to thank University UM6P inviting me. I'm a head of company for Africa. I was very honored to be part of this meeting. So thank you for that. I just wanted not to give a definition myself for sustainability. I just wanted to give a testimony saying that I was born in Senegal, as you mentioned earlier. I was born in a country which is belonging to Sahel region. And Sahel region is a region where the desert coming from Sahara is progressing year after year into the Sahel and eating part of the forest, getting more and more, having more and more desert progressing to those regions. This is something I was seeing since I was a young boy. And now when I go back to Senegal and I see how this desert is progressing, I don't need any definition of sustainability. I see it, I live it, I see people not having water. You said about food, this is perfectly right. But the thing is, people doesn't have even water to drink. So, and this is exactly the conclusion and the impact of the climate change happening in Africa. So what I see myself as a leader of a company belonging to a sector which is not agriculture, I'm not a specialist of agriculture. I will be speaking more about what I know, which is more the digital sector of the IT, but I think we will come to that later on. I can say that for me, the sustainability is something we're living. Sometimes I hear when I listen to the news in France or some other countries, people claiming that they don't have water. So this is something I know since being a boy. So when I use my robinet, I just always try to be very frugal, not to use the water so much. So this is something I'm living. I just wanted to give a small testimony to you guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that personal connection with the topic. And indeed, at the end of the day, we're dealing with human beings. So this brings me a perfect transition with you, Mr. Klaus Lesinger. You bring a unique perspective to this discussion with the social science. And when we consider the challenges faced by small farmers in Africa, how can we strike a balance between implementing short-term measures while also ensuring that these efforts align with a long-term strategy for sustainable development?
Yeah, thank you very much. Being aware of the complexity of the term sustainability. I mean, we have the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, and it's all a dimension in itself. I want to restrict my comment only on one aspect. That's elements that are relevant to achieve food security in a way that allows to achieve tangible early successes for those who are threatened by hunger without negatively affecting essential elements for a comprehensive long-term sustainability. Like Hanan said, it has something to do with doing something today without not doing something for future people. For that, incentives are important. We are all human beings who react to incentives. Interventions must bring short-term economic benefits to small farmers by improving first and foremost soil health and, if possible, use improved seed. Higher yields and higher incomes have much more cumulative positive changes, and this is why, we cannot explain the small farmer the complexities of sustainability. We have to do something where he or she feels at the end of the season, yes, I'm better off. Then the motivation is there to do something else. Successful interventions will have to make use of traditional knowledge and experience. To me, it's the combination of best scientific practices and local know-how that will make a difference. And in both categories, much more knowledge is available that is actually implemented or used. Now, complex problems do not have simple solutions. Even the best intentioned programs of well-meaning individual actors will trickle away. This is why sharing knowledge of and co-creation with relevant stakeholders is crucial. So we have here the farmers, of course, the farmer family, farmer associations, agricultural extension services, small credit institutions, NGOs, local NGOs, and the fertilizer industry. And we are here all guests of a company with which I had the privilege to work some years. And leadership for a fertilizer company in this scenario means to develop innovative concepts of corporate responsibility, doing more than what Harvard Business School would tell you to do. It is not only the combination of products and of safe products through donations, through differential pricing. It is also training, it is also education, and what OCP and its foundation has achieved is one of these things that I would want to have as case studies internationally known, so that people do not have to reinvent the wheel because so much more is available. Now, the prudent use of fertilizer, and my colleague Terry Roberts has mentioned that right product at the right rate, at the right time and in the right place, plays a crucial role regardless of the desirable changes in the political, social and institutional framework. A lot of things ought to be changed. But again, we cannot tell the small farmer and his wife, we first have to rearrange policies and then we have to rearrange institutions. No, that has to be done. But if we can do something today without all the political and institutional changes that are necessary, that's something that we ought to do. Best corporate practices, to me, include preferential pricing agreements for particular target groups so that the price of fertilizer is not becoming an obstacle to its use. Secondly, education and training programs tailor-made to particular target groups. Observance and not arrogance with regard to local knowledge. These people have survived a lot of obstacles, and the knowledge combined with the latest scientific insights can make a big difference. And then, depending on the specificity and cultural, political, ecological, political situations, others. Again, much more is known, much more can be implemented if and when the political will and the stakeholder cooperation allows for it.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. There is a lot to unpack there. So much has been said, and we'll be exploring a little bit more on this topic. This next question is for you, Erin, actually. I know that you are using blockchain technology to ensure smallholder farmers receive the correct payment, right? Resulting in significant increase in their profits. Could you please provide us with more details about how this blockchain-based solution works and the specific impact it has had on farmers? Thank you.
Yes, and thank you for having me here. Pretty much, I was a part of one of the world's first use cases of farmers, smallholder farmers, using blockchain to ensure traceability and also to make sure that their rates were locked in. Blockchain is an immutable database, so it's very powerful. We worked with a farmers collective of 20,000 farmers in India, where farmers were using blockchain every day, and their profits instantly went up by 750%. Take that in, 750% just by using a blockchain app. You have to pay farmers what they're worth as a part of solving this solution with food security. We have way too many farmer suicides happening around the world. India, America, Europe, it's happening everywhere. So this is very important. One piece of this is that when farmers are using this app, they can also show complete traceability. So what happens is you can use satellite technology to lock in where the transactions are happening at every point in the food chain. So if a farmer is here in Morocco and they have a supply chain that's going to France, for example, every time they have a transaction in the supply chain, the satellite technology locks in the location to the blockchain. This is called geolocation. So therefore, you know where it's coming from. And this is very exciting as well because you have people in different markets. For example, saffron. We have people who are in Iran who like to say they're saffrons from Kashmir because saffron connoisseurs want the saffron from Kashmir. But what happens is people from other countries are saying, oh, we have Kashmir from this country, and it's a lie, right? So with blockchain technology, you can make sure that the saffron farmer in Kashmir is actually showing and getting his product to market because we know where it's really coming from. So this is very exciting.
Thank you so much. 750% of increase, that's really impressive. Thank you for sharing that with us. Salim Musaddiqin, as we continue our exploration of Africa's vital role in addressing global challenges and fostering sustainability, let's dive deeper into a specific topic, which is the role of carbon circular economy and practices. How is that contributing to the broad agenda of unlocking Africa's sustainable potential?
Sure, thank you, Manal, for your question. Before answering it, I would like to define basically what is circular carbon economy through an example. By making an observation, we aim to net zero by 2050. And can we today, or in the short and mid-term, decarbonize fully some industries like the maritime, the aviation? The answer, let's be factual, the answer is no. On the other hand, we have hard-to-abate industries for which CO2 production is intrinsic to the underlying chemical reaction of their processes. And this CO2 is according to international regulations, classified as an unavoidable industrial emission. So if we manage to capture that CO2 and process it with green hydrogen, we will be able to produce hydrocarbons. And let's keep in mind our friends from the maritime and aviation industry who are still using today hydrocarbons. So if we supply these hydrocarbons to the aviation and maritime sectors, for example, it will be used through the traditional combustion engines, and released into the atmosphere where it would have been in the first place. We have just created a circular carbon ecosystem. Now, coming to the question, Africa. Africa has huge potential in terms of carbon sources, both industrial. We have several important industrial hubs in Africa, also from the agricultural and forestry residues. And we can tap into this carbon relatively easily and cost-effectively with technologies scaling up and the cost dropping below $30, which is the tipping point, according to several industry experts. On the other hand, many African countries have substantial green potential, green power potential, from hydraulic, geothermal, solar, wind, which can allow mass production of hydrogen that will lead to further decarbonize the hard-to-abate industries, but also the production of synthetic fuels. So my key takeaway is that this circular pathway is very promising for Africa. For what it allows in terms of swift and seamless retrofit into existing supply chain for mobility, power generation, domestic heating and cooling.
I'll have a question for you right after.
Okay.
Because I'm really curious about one aspect you mentioned there, but I'll leave it for the second round, if you don't mind. So thank you so much for sharing that. So interesting, synthetic fuels and sustainable fuels, a lot that we're going to unpack in the second round of questions. Ismail Tekin, thanks again for being with us here today. There is a well-known quote that says, if you cannot measure it, you cannot improve it, right? And measuring the impact has long been a challenge in this area. So my question to you is, how is the World Impact Forum helping with this issue of measuring impact? And what are the metrics you are using to measure that impact?
Thank you, Manal. And thank you for hosting us here at UM6P. It's been a wonderful experience, and to the organizers as well. And to putting together such a strong panel. Thank you so much. I think the majority of this comes down to having conscious people around you. Having a community around you that is conscious enough to want to make a change, whether it's for today or for generations to come. And with your team here earlier, people talk about intergenerational wealth. This is a kind of intergenerational wealth. It's a legacy that's created beyond our community today. So the goal at the forum is to bring together global impact investors, people, projects, mentors, experts, leaders in the industry. So it's an amalgamation of the best, and it's the best of the community coming together from a global perspective. And through solution-driven initiatives such as roundtables and annual forums, etc., we bring that community together, and we work with governments, etc. Where it comes to where we talk about accountability, I like to use the example of or the famous quote from John F. Kennedy, which is, "Don't ask what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country." People who know me have heard me say that many times, because that accountability lies within each of us, whether it's in agriculture, in Africa, as we're talking today. It's widespread. It's a catalyst, and part of my vocabulary states the human blockchain. So beyond the physical, technological blockchain is the human blockchain, which encapsulates conscious-driven people to do good. So in a roundabout way, it's about putting the community at the heart of what you do and encapsulating that community with inspirational people that have solutions that can be offered. And it can be done at a micro level. And I've personally found as well that the more that is done on a micro level creates a macro solution. So that's part of the experiences I've learned along the way.
Sounds amazing.
I hope that helps.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Klaus, Hanan mentioned the importance of food security when defining sustainability. Now, when we discuss the private sector's role in advancing food security within the context of sustainability, could you elaborate a little bit on the specific innovative approaches or strategies that you believe companies should adopt to redefine corporate responsibility?
Yeah, thank you very much. And, just to start with that, it all depends on people with goodwill, on conscious people with goodwill. And that's also, you have this bell-shaped distribution of characters everywhere, also in companies, and in some companies, you have that consciousness that we are able to do more and to do better than just what pleases the quarterly report analysis of the financial analysts. So if we talk about corporate responsibility for sustainable development, the question that you would ask in the executive committee, looking at this particular issue, what's the best we can do, adding to what governments are doing, international community is doing, local authorities are doing. Where can we match resources? Where can we bring in innovative thinking? Where can we bring in a business model that makes sustainable sense for those people in the villages? Negatively expressed, it means don't use poor countries as a dumping ground for dangerous products. Be aware that something that is appropriate in the Middle West of the United States might not necessarily be appropriate in sub-Saharan Africa and vice versa. Also ask your, if I'm giving seminars to business leaders, I always ask them, what do you, CEO or president, what do you want to be your legacy? What should people talk about you 5 years after you left the company? And you will immediately see it's not the quarterly results, it's not the profit that has been rising all the time. Yes, profit is necessary, that's not the question. But it is what did the company through leadership contribute more than the usual MBA-studied business model. And there the creativity, which I perceive from the private sector, is enormous and ought to be used and ought to be brought together in a solution stakeholder group where also business can learn from NGOs and from multilateral institutions and vice versa.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing insight. And that piece on legacy is really important, I think, indeed, to ask oneself what type of legacy do we want to leave behind. Alpha, we are exploring the different possible solutions and the different perspectives in order to unleash, let's say, the full sustainable potential of our continent. What is your perspective on the topic, and how is Atos Africa contributing to advancing this agenda?
Thank you. I would give 3 answers. What we are doing and what I think as an African, what would be the way we should go to achieve all this transformation of the world by bringing our own expertise. The first thing I would like to mention is what the experts call frugal innovation. It's a very strange word, but it doesn't mean low cost. It means that you look at a need which is not addressed by anyone, by any product, and you think how to develop a solution or a product to address that specific need. And those specific needs, they belong many often to the needs defined by the pyramid of Maslow, the lowest level of the pyramid of Maslow. I will give one example. In Africa, many countries doesn't have, the people doesn't have bank accounts. The specific application which is developed for mobile money is giving the full potential of a bank to a person who doesn't have a bank account. And that are millions of Africans. So those Africans, they could now make a transfer of cash to their relatives. They could make a payment of an invoice, electricity invoice. They could do all these things you do with your own bank account. So this is the one point I wanted to mention. The second point I wanted to mention is relating to my business, which is relating to the infrastructure, to the data center, to the clouds, etc. So in the IT solution, what we say often is that let's say the emerging countries, they did not adopt a linear development in terms of IT. They did what the English people call a leapfrog, meaning that they don't need to follow a linear curve. They just jump to the next generation of technology. So if you come back to the current status, we still in Africa still doing creating a lot of data centers, which are in several companies or several public organizations, while everyone knows today that the cloud is a perfect solution to allow the companies, to allow the state-owned companies to get a very competitive solution through a cloud which is managed by experts, which is managed by a company like us with the support of some other large hyperscalers. So this is a solution where we could do the jump, not creating the national data center. I hear everywhere in Africa, national data center, and often it's not used by the users themselves. So this is an example I wanted to state. The third, and I will stop here, is relating to training, to the talents. We know in the world there is millions of talents, of deficit of talents in terms of digital. Africa has the most important youth in the world, and it will continue, it will develop. So let's make sure that we train young talents in Africa like you do here in University UM6P. So we will, together with our partners in Atos, be creating a lot of trainings to help the young people to get trained in this digital organization so that we can develop solutions not only for our countries, but also solutions through offshore digital we can do, like Morocco is doing, by the way, very well in comparison to the rest of the African countries. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alpha, for sharing your insights with us. That was insightful indeed. Hanan Mourchid, as a representative of OCP, can you share with us some specific projects or initiatives led by OCP that have made significant impact on sustainability and agricultural development in Africa, and how have these projects contributed to addressing specific challenges on the continent?
Yeah. Thank you. Maybe I will choose two main initiatives. One is even the essence of OCP strategy in Africa, where we went there and we committed ourselves to support the African Green Revolution. We started by considering the smallholder farmer a centric component of the whole system. So all our sustainability and business strategy have been developed around the smallholder farmer and trying to address his daily burdens and bottlenecks. This is why we even changed our business model from B2B to B2C, completely customized to the farmers' needs, addressing bottlenecks, logistics, railroads, access to fertilizers, having new warehouses, storages all over the African continent, working on end-to-end solutions addressing affordability, finance, crop insurance, access to financial tools, like the Agri-Booster, for example, training, the access to market once the product is there. Because we know that not all what is produced through the agricultural sector in Africa goes to market and finds a way to the final plates. So OCP decided to launch these kind of initiatives such as the Agri-Booster, addressing all this around the farmers. And we've been doing this in many countries all over the continent, and the results were really very impactful. The second initiative is the essence of OCP's product development approach through customization. So customization is developing, once again, products that are tailor-made to the African soil. We decided from the beginning to avoid importing existing solutions working all over the world to the African continent and avoiding then all the environmental issues through oversupply of nutrients, especially the nitrogen that is today a big burden. We know that more than 60% of nitrogen that is applied is not absorbed by the crops. So this goes in water, in the air. This brings a lot of GHG emissions. So we developed, let's say, a scientific scanning of soils, soil mapping, and identifying what are the exact needs of each one of these soils. What is the need of the Ethiopian soils? What is the need of the Ghana soil, etc. And this led us to move from 4 or 5, let's say, standard types of fertilizers to more than 50 types today. Each one is dedicated to a kind of crop, a kind of soil. I'm coming back to Ethiopia, for example, where there is a lack of sulfur. And with the new formula that we call NPS, that contains a little bit of sulfur, but less phosphorus and definitely less nitrogen, that's what we used to sell, we've been able to rise, let's say, yield to up to 40% more yield. And NPS is less expensive than DAP, which makes it a win-win strategy for the farmer, for the environment, for the land, for the yield, and for us as well.
Well, it's really amazing to learn to what extent you're tailoring these solutions to the different types. Thank you so much for sharing that insight with us. Erin, it is clear now that adopting these farmer-centric approaches is the way to go. Beyond, using blockchain technology to get the farmers paid the fair amount they need to be paid, could you elaborate on the broader benefits this could bring to the smallholder farmer in, their overall well-being in the agricultural sector, obviously?
So I guess the other part of what I do is to help smallholder farmers to monetize their soil carbon. There's a lot of innovation that's happening right now with this, and it's moving very fast. The whole carbon industry is dramatically changing overnight. The technologies are not what they were even 6 months ago. So let me give you a case study. I was a part of the world's first case study as an advisor for blockchain that rewarded a smallholder farmer in Brazil $10,000 for her soil carbon assets using blockchain as the immutable database and satellite, again, to show where the soil carbon is and to prove that it is still there. This is incredible. The carbon industry for the past 3 decades has never been able to prove and show with technology that carbon is real in real time, and now we can. This is very exciting. So pretty much, sorry, I can't name names, but I will tell you what's coming. In the spring of next year, we will be releasing these new types of carbon credits using these technologies of satellite combined with soil data, blockchain, and AI. We will be releasing farmer soil carbon credits. Every time you buy one of these credits, it will support farmer in Uganda by paying them for their soil carbon fairly, which you can see on the blockchain to make sure that they were actually paid. This is very important because carbon developers in the past promised smallholder farmers and indigenous tribes that they would get paid for their soil carbon and disappeared, made millions off of their carbon and never paid these people. So blockchain can solve that by showing the transparency that they're actually paid, for one. The other great thing about these carbon credits that we're going to release is that every credit will be insured by one of the world's largest insurance companies, one. Two, each carbon credit will actually pay a farmer for farmer insurance for 1 year. These carbon credits are being created based off of 3 million farmers in Uganda that are ready to go and already onboarded. There's never been anything like this before. So I am very excited and very honored and privileged to be a part of this and to actually see carbon innovation supporting these smallholder farmers, which again, it's making sure the farmer is paid is helping with food security, and it's also, because we're using carbon, is a climate solution.
That's really exciting. Amazing. Thank you so much. Selim, I have a very brief question before we wrap up with you, Ismail, because we need to keep on time, and we have the closing ceremony of the Agri-Chain Investment in Africa Forum that is happening right after this session. I want to follow up on what you mentioned earlier, and I know that European mandates require airlines to consume a minimum of sustainable aviation fuel starting 2025. And this applies to all African companies that operate flights to Europe or to countries that are adopting these measures. By 2050, 70% of these 70% of the used fuel must be sustainable. So my question to you is, first of all, what is sustainable fuel? Because that can seem counterintuitive at first. And then very briefly, how can we support the industry to be prepared to this significant change?
Thank you, Manel, for the question. First, I will comment on the counterintuitive remark. Indeed, it's a totally legitimate remark. Despite using aviation fuel, so ultimately the CO2 is released into the atmosphere. But what we have to keep in mind is that the CO2 was either initially in the atmosphere and have been processed through biomass, or it was a CO2 that has been captured on unavoidable industrial emission and would have been de facto in the atmosphere. Yes, by providing the aviation sector with that recycled carbon fuel, we clearly can help that industry target the net zero, even before the 2050. So, coming back to the first question, definition of sustainable aviation fuel. Basically, it is a fuel used in the aviation industry, produced using renewable and sustainable energy, and feedstocks that are environmentally friendly and with a lower carbon footprint. It uses processes that are either natural or synthetic industrial processes, of which technology is relatively mature and commercially available. But today the challenge is for SAF is the price. And indeed, African airlines will face this challenge starting from 2025. So this leads us to the second question, how to tackle this challenge. For me, there are three enablers to democratize the use of sustainable aviation fuel globally. The first one is steady investment over the long run in R&D and in production capacity in order to lower the production costs and bring it to par with the costs of the regular fossil-based aviation fuel. The second enabler is a clear regulatory framework at regional, global, and sectorial levels in order to encourage the early adopter to step up their efforts. And this can be through a combination of incentives, carbon taxes, but these mechanisms have to be circular in a way that carbon taxes would transform into incentives, and incentives transform into additional SAF capacity. The third one is an strong international cooperation in order not to leave anyone behind. So this can be played out through public-private partnerships, through education, training of a new workforce, and this will ultimately help foster this new ecosystem.
Thank you. Thank you very much for those 3 points, very clear. Ismail, as we conclude our panel discussion, could you share one last message you would like to leave us with? What would that be?
It's funny you said that, because I was going to ask everyone to give their, words of wisdom, which I like to end with sometimes. So my personal words of wisdom would be, focus on the people who are around you, the communities you work with, put them at the heart of it, and be of service. Serve the people around you. So that would be my words of wisdom.
Amazing. Klaus, would you like to leave us with one more word of wisdom?
Well, if I would have one thing to say, it's the role of women in development. It is something, the whole debate that we are having for food security is much too biased towards engineering, towards chemistry, towards and not enough for social sciences. You know, it's politics, it's psychology, it has to do with role of with gender issues, because at the end it's human development that we are caring about, and 51% of the human population are women.
Well, on this beautiful note, I would like to conclude this panel discussion. Thank you so much to our esteemed panelists for your insights. Let's give them a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Thank you, all of you. I would like to join you to take your seats, and please stay with us for the closing ceremony. If you can stay with us, that would be an honor. Thank you again for your insight. It was such a pleasure to have you here with us. Mesdames et messieurs, il est temps pour nous maintenant de passer à la cérémonie de clôture de AgriChain Investment in Africa Forum. Il me semble que nous avons l'honneur d'avoir parmi nous le président de l'UM6P, qui va arriver dans quelques instants et qui va nous rejoindre pour cette session de clôture du AgriChain Investment in Africa Forum. Donc, je souhaiterais appeler Monsieur le Président de l'UM6P, Monsieur Hicham Habté, à nous rejoindre sur scène pour un petit mot avant que nous puissions faire la clôture officielle de ce forum. Alors, je vais aussi appeler sur scène les deux partenaires de ce forum, de la session inaugurale de ce forum. Je souhaiterais que vous vous joigniez à moi, mesdames et messieurs, pour accueillir très chaleureusement Monsieur Youssef Elbari, CEO d'Innovex, qui va me rejoindre sur scène. Merci de lui réserver un accueil chaleureux pendant qu'il se joint à moi sur scène. Je voudrais également, mesdames et messieurs, qu'on puisse accueillir Monsieur Mohamed Htiti, directeur des opérations et Senior Vice President pour l'Afrique de l'Est chez UM6P Africa. Merci de les accueillir très chaleureusement et de les applaudir pendant qu'ils prennent place à mes côtés sur scène. Nous avons aussi, comme je le disais, l'honneur d'avoir parmi nous le président de l'UM6P qui prend place aussi au niveau du pupitre pour nous faire un petit mot avant qu'on puisse procéder à la clôture officielle de cette première édition de AgriChain Investment in Africa Forum. Je rappelle, mesdames et messieurs, que nous avons passé toute la journée avec des experts. Monsieur le Président, merci de nous faire l'honneur d'être parmi nous. À vous la parole.
C'est le dernier speech de la journée, donc voilà, c'est juste pour clôturer. Je sais qu'il y a encore du monde en live streaming. En fait, comme ça vient d'être dit, tout au long de la journée, il y avait un forum autour de l'investissement dans l'agri-chain in Africa qui s'est tenu aujourd'hui entre Innovex et UM6P Africa, et qui s'inscrit, donc, comme on a dit, dans le programme qui est en cours, qui s'appelle Voice of Africa, la voix de l'Afrique, en marge des assemblées annuelles de la Banque mondiale et du FMI. Et donc, ce forum vise à créer un espace d'échange et de networking pour les acteurs du secteur agricole africain en vue de créer des opportunités de collaboration et de développement de projets agricoles et industriels. Donc il y avait 2 panels ce matin qui ont permis de mieux comprendre les freins au développement de l'agriculture et le levier d'accélération du secteur, et qui a permis aussi, en fait, parce qu'il faut qu'on voit les opportunités, de discuter les innovations en matière de financement et d'investissement dans les chaînes de valeur agricole. Les workshops de l'après-midi ont permis aux participants de discuter de cas concrets d'innovation dans le domaine agricole, dans un esprit de collaboration, de partage entre les acteurs africains. Et je pense, ce que l'équipe m'a remonté, c'est que le format était l'occasion de rencontres fructueuses entre les participants. Et en fait, ça, c'est une façon de contribution de l'UM6P au niveau de cette chaîne de valeur qui est importante, à savoir la chaîne de valeur agricole. Nous avons, comme vous le savez, le Collège de l'agriculture, avec plus de 400 personnes qui travaillent dedans. Et notre objectif, c'est de ne pas se limiter à la production de connaissances dans le domaine de l'agriculture. C'est en fait d'emmener ces innovations vers le fermier à travers le partage, à travers Innovix, qui est une filiale de l'UM6P, qui a plusieurs verticales de développement, dont une qui est en lien avec l'agriculture/eau. Et je pense que Youssef, le PDG de Innovix, va donner beaucoup plus d'éléments. Donc voilà, moi je vais laisser mes amis débriefer, mais voilà, bon courage. Merci.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président, pour ces mots. Merci à vous de vous être joints à nous. Mesdames et messieurs, aujourd'hui, la journée a été très, très riche en événements marquants. En fait, la SFI et le groupe OCP ont en effet lancé une plateforme d'agrofinancement visant à mobiliser 800 millions de dollars de capitaux mixtes d'ici 2030. Et pour en savoir plus sur cette plateforme et son impact, j'ai le grand plaisir de faire monter sur scène Monsieur Youn Saedo, vice-président Agribusiness et Sustainability Solutions chez Innovix. Je vous remercie de l'applaudir très chaleureusement. Et nous avons le grand plaisir également d'avoir parmi nous ce soir Madame Selma Sitaro, qui est CEO de Cashew Coast. Voilà, j'espère que ne pas l'avoir mal prononcé. CEO de Cashew Coast. De la noix de cajou. Et on a hâte d'en savoir plus. Ma chère Selma, je vous en prie, prenez place. C'est un plaisir de vous avoir parmi nous. Alors, avant de plonger dans le détail de cette grande nouvelle et de cette signature qui a eu lieu aujourd'hui, prenons un petit moment, messieurs, pour revenir sur les points clés du forum aujourd'hui. Nous avons eu le plaisir et la chance d'avoir un panel de speakers de haut niveau et d'experts de haut niveau. Je commence par vous, monsieur Youssef Elbari. Quels sont les messages clés que vous retenez de toutes ces discussions ? Si on peut activer le micro de monsieur Elbari, s'il vous plaît.
Bonsoir. Merci Manel pour la question. Donc, effectivement, aujourd'hui s'est tenue la première édition de l'Agri-Chain Investment in Africa Forum. C'est un forum qui a été voulu par le groupe OCP et qui a été organisé par deux entités membres du groupe OCP que sont Innovix et OCP Africa. Et l'objectif de ce forum est d'avoir un peu une contribution dans la libération du potentiel agricole africain. Et l'idée pour y contribuer, c'est de travailler de manière précise sur les chaînes de valeur agricoles et d'avoir un forum autour de ces chaînes de valeur qui permettent de manière un peu concrète, précise, d'initier, de générer plutôt des idées de projets qui permettent un peu de décontraindre ces chaînes de valeur. Et donc effectivement, comme l'a dit Monsieur le Président, c'est Hicham El-Habti, en 2 étapes. Il y a eu une première discussion autour de ces chaînes de valeur et principalement des contraintes auxquelles font face ces chaînes de valeur en termes techniques tels que du savoir-faire technique, donc besoin de formation, de la recherche et développement, de l'investissement productif donc dans de la production ou des besoins de commercialisation. Tout cela a été abordé pendant ce premier panel et donc beaucoup de contraintes ont été soulevées. Et ces contraintes-là, ce sont aussi des idées de projet. Et ces idées de projet, une fois bien définies, font souvent face à un sujet de financement. Et donc la deuxième table ronde au sujet de financement qui a permis un peu de voir les différentes possibilités d'innovation, de financement innovant aussi. Donc voilà, et il y a eu quelques séances de workshop ensuite pour partager. Disons que globalement, ça a été très positif. Ça a permis de voir déjà concrètement des idées de projets. On a parlé de maïs au Nigeria, on a parlé de la chaîne de valeur du riz au Sénégal. Donc on a vu des choses qui sont très concrètes et qui nous réconfortent sur le résultat de cette première édition et qui nous réconfortent donc dans la poursuite de l'organisation avec OCP Africa de ce forum pour en faire un événement régulier qui permette d'aider à libérer donc le potentiel agricole africain.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur El Bari, pour ce partage. Et nous reviendrons justement tout à l'heure sur les prochaines étapes et ce qu'on pourra attendre de ce qui est à venir. Monsieur Mohamed Htiti, vous avez également participé avec nous à l'ensemble des discussions. Même question pour vous. Quels sont les messages que vous retenez de votre perspective?
C'est très difficile d'arriver après mon ami Youssef, mais je pense, pour ne pas répéter ce que mon ami Youssef a dit, le mot-clé, c'est que l'investissement est un facteur clé pour le développement de l'agriculture en Afrique. Lorsqu'on dit un facteur clé d'investissement, oui, on le faisait toujours, mais maintenant, il faut le faire d'une façon innovative. Et lorsqu'on parle du financement, on parle de tout le spectre du financement, c'est-à-dire de la petite structure jusqu'à la grande structure, mais aussi l'investissement sur toute la chaîne de valeur. Il ne faut pas oublier une partie de cette chaîne de valeur qui commence par la production, que ce soit des inputs, des intrants, ou de l'off-take du produit, qui est le produit de nos fermiers. Donc l'investissement est un facteur clé pour le développement de l'agriculture si on veut vraiment un développement durable, productif et résilient. C'est ça ce que... Merci.
Merci beaucoup, c'est très clair et en fait, effectivement, c'est le message clé à retenir. Alors, je le mentionnais précédemment, la nouvelle plateforme a été lancée aujourd'hui pour développer et soutenir des systèmes de production et de distribution alimentaire durables en Afrique. La cérémonie de signature s'est faite avec la SFI à Marrakech en marge des assemblées annuelles de la Banque mondiale et du FMI. Je vous pose une deuxième question, Monsieur El Bari, parce que le développement de cette plateforme Blended Finance s'appuie sur l'expertise d'Innovix. Pouvez-vous nous en dire un peu plus sur le rôle d'Innovix dans le développement de cette plateforme et plus largement dans le développement des chaînes de valeur agricoles en Afrique?
Younes parlera beaucoup mieux que moi de la plateforme, mais l'idée, c'est, et ça ressort aussi dans la discussion de ce matin, c'est que on connaît assez bien les contraintes qu'il y a sur les différentes chaînes de valeur, mais les projets ne se font pas parce qu'ils continuent d'être risqués. Et l'idée de la plateforme, c'est de créer une coordination qui fait que le fait de trouver des investisseurs dans les différents projets qui permettent de décontraindre la chaîne de valeur de façon à réduire le risque individuel pour chacun de ces projets. Toute l'idée de la plateforme est là et il s'agit de le faire de manière précise pour chacune des chaînes de valeur qu'on considérera. C'est un partenariat, comme vous avez dit, avec l'AFC et le rôle d'Innovix, comme dans toutes les activités dans lesquelles intervient Innovix, est de démarrer. De démarrer l'activité. Donc on créera la plateforme en JV avec IFC. Et c'est une plateforme qu'on va incuber, maturer jusqu'à un certain niveau pour la transmettre par la suite sûrement vers OCP Africa.
Ça me fait une transition parfaite. Merci beaucoup. Alors, Monsieur Htiti, le développement de cette plateforme s'appuie également sur la connaissance approfondie d'OCP Africa, qui est donc la filiale du groupe OCP dédiée au continent africain. Comment est-ce que cette idée a été initiée à la base et quel est l'impact que vous prévoyez pour cette plateforme sur le continent?
L'idée, elle est déjà là. Donc l'idée, elle était initiée, ça fait très longtemps, mais la preuve que OCP Africa, il était dans le projet depuis le départ, c'est-à-dire depuis la genèse du projet, parce que nous avons vu un réel besoin pour cette plateforme pour pouvoir investir sur toute la chaîne de valeur. Et le fait de pouvoir dérisquer une activité par rapport à une autre et qu'une seule personne ou une seule entreprise ne peut pas le faire, c'était l'idée qui a donné naissance à cette plateforme. Donc, à OCP Africa, nous avons ressenti que le besoin, il était tellement important pour pouvoir supporter non seulement nos producteurs, mais aussi nos agro-dealers, mais aussi les investisseurs qui voulaient investir dans que ce soit la fourniture des intrants, que ce soit l'off-take des produits. Donc nous étions depuis le départ, et d'ailleurs nous sommes les premiers clients de Innovix, et nous avons signé ce matin, en marge de la signature de cette convention avec AFC, 3 projets que nous avons initiés avec nos partenaires au Côte d'Ivoire, que ce soit dans l'anacarde, le riz, mais aussi dans le financement des agro-dealers. Donc OCP Africa avait cette connaissance de terrain, avait réalisé que une plateforme pour pouvoir dérisquer l'ensemble des activités sur la chaîne de valeur, mais aussi pouvoir financer des projets qu'on ne pouvait pas faire seul, que personne ne pouvait le faire seul. Donc, j'espère que nous contribuerons aussi à développer cette plateforme. Et Inch'Allah, nous avons démarré avec 3 projets. L'année prochaine, pourquoi pas, nous aurons 30 projets. Et dont OCP Africa sera un client majeur dans la plateforme.
Super, mais nous suivrons cela avec beaucoup d'intérêt. Je me tourne vers vous, Monsieur Younsadou. Vous êtes le responsable de la plateforme et vous avez participé ce matin à son lancement officiel. Pouvez-vous nous en dire plus sur cette plateforme, son fonctionnement et surtout ce qui la rend unique?
Très bien. Tout d'abord, merci pour cette invitation. Alors, je tiens à remercier aussi les personnes qui sont restées avec nous, les courageux et ténaces, et on va essayer d'être synthétique pour ne pas retenir davantage les gens. Concrètement, en fait, la plateforme, elle s'articule autour de 2 piliers majeurs. C'est-à-dire qu'aujourd'hui, on parle de plateforme, c'est un concept, mais enfin c'est plus un concept d'ailleurs, ce n'est pas un fonds d'investissement. C'est-à-dire que c'est un projet qui a démarré il y a plusieurs mois, il y a environ 1 an, avec AFC. Nous sommes dans une alliance aujourd'hui qui, courant 2023, va devenir une structure, une entité juridique à but, une social venture, on appelle ça une social venture en fait. L'ambition de cette plateforme, c'est effectivement, comme l'ont dit mes collègues, de structurer les chaînes de valeur, de dérisquer les chaînes de valeur pour finalement faciliter l'émergence et le développement du potentiel, la libération du potentiel du continent en termes d'agriculture et d'agribusiness. Les 2 piliers majeurs de cette plateforme sur lesquels elle s'appuie, c'est un rôle en tant qu'incubateur. Donc elle est là pour structurer en amont des projets, des transactions, des interventions tout au long d'une chaîne de valeur. Et le deuxième pilier qui complète le premier, c'est sa capacité à mobiliser du financement. Donc la plateforme va venir investir à travers des véhicules catalytiques qu'on va déployer à partir de l'année prochaine, des véhicules d'investissement et des véhicules de grant, mais elle va également mobiliser du financement aussi bien vis-à-vis de ses sponsors, OCP, AFC aujourd'hui, mais également les sponsors qui vont nous rejoindre à partir des prochains mois, et puis ce qu'on appelle les external funders, donc les fonds de private equity, les fonds de dette, les banques commerciales, les DFI et les fondations. Donc sur la base de ces 2 piliers-là, la plateforme a une approche centrée sur les chaînes de valeur. Donc on prend une chaîne de valeur de bout en bout et on fait l'analyse de tous les maillons de cette chaîne de valeur. L'idée derrière, c'est de pouvoir identifier les fameux bottlenecks, pain points auxquels font face un peu les différentes parties prenantes. Et ensuite, ce qui fait davantage, enfin qui crée davantage de valeur à notre sens pour cette plateforme, c'est qu'elle n'a pas vocation finalement à aller parler avec l'ensemble de ces acteurs-là. Et on va se concentrer, on va identifier en fait ce qu'on appelle un champion. Et nous avons une championne parmi nous aujourd'hui, et donc elle va illustrer bien évidemment tout ce que je dis. On va identifier un champion et qui joue ce rôle d'agrégateur, qui agrège un peu différents acteurs dans son écosystème le plus proche. Et on va accompagner ce champion à travers de l'augmentation de capacité, de l'accès à des lignes de financement BFR, mais on va également accompagner la partie en amont, donc l'upstream, c'est-à-dire comment est-ce qu'on va sécuriser l'approvisionnement de ce champion-là en intrants pour sa production, Donc on va accompagner les fermiers, les différents producteurs, fermes commerciales, à travers de l'accès à de la mécanisation, de l'accès à de la formation et de l'éducation, de l'accès, encore une fois, au financement. Et donc d'ailleurs, on a signé un partenariat, si Mohamed en a parlé tout à l'heure, avec Bank of Africa pour la mise en place d'une ligne de financement avec des mécanismes de garantie et des mécanismes de taux discountés, ce qui facilite encore une fois l'accès à ce financement-là. Et on va également venir accompagner la partie plutôt en aval, c'est-à-dire comment est-ce qu'on peut renforcer toute la partie distribution, renforcer la marque, renforcer tous les process de qualité, de certification de qualité, notamment dans une perspective d'export, renforcer la partie environnementale et sociale. C'est devenu de plus en plus important. On le voit, le panel précédent, en fait, aujourd'hui, si on veut aller attaquer des marchés à l'étranger, si on veut les lever du financement auprès d'un certain nombre de partenaires bancaires, il faut pouvoir avoir également respecté un peu les critères en termes environnementaux et sociaux. Donc c'est vraiment cette approche-là, chaîne de valeur, de dérisking tout au long de la chaîne de valeur et venir accompagner en proposant les produits de financement, d'accompagnement les plus adaptés.
Merci beaucoup. On a bien compris comment ça fonctionnait. Du coup, est-ce que vous pourriez nous partager très brièvement quelques chiffres ou un mot sur l'ambition de cette plateforme?
Bien sûr. Alors, l'ambition, en fait, à horizon 2030, c'est ce que nous avons annoncé ce matin lors de la signature du partenariat avec AFC, c'est mobiliser 800 millions de dollars, ce qui donne lieu en fait à une trentaine de chaînes de valeur et environ 60-70 opérations qu'on va structurer donc, tout au long de cette chaîne de valeur. Ça, c'est l'ambition chiffrée. Et ensuite, on réfléchit à l'impact. Et finalement, cette plateforme a la vocation à renforcer les écosystèmes locaux, à renforcer la question de la sécurité alimentaire, à renforcer la question de la souveraineté alimentaire des différents pays. Donc c'est vraiment dans cette perspective-là que la plateforme s'inscrit. Au-delà des chiffres, les chiffres sont importants, bien évidemment, mais c'est surtout l'impact qu'on voudrait avoir sur tout l'écosystème africain. Et ça, c'est le rôle du groupe OCP et du groupe AFC par ailleurs.
C'est très clair, merci beaucoup pour ce partage. Alors je me tourne vers vous, Madame Selma Sitaro, notre championne du panel. Donc vous êtes la CEO de Cashew Coast, qui est donc le premier transformateur indépendant de noix de cajou à avoir intégré sa chaîne d'approvisionnement numériquement de la ferme à la fourchette, dit-on. J'avais hésité avant de le dire. Donc c'est vraiment de la traçabilité de bout en bout. Et donc, vous avez actuellement, je prends le moment de partager ça, mesdames et messieurs, parce que je pense que c'est important aussi de vraiment partager ces éléments que je trouve tout à fait impressionnants. Vous avez actuellement 7000 petits agriculteurs certifiés, intégrés grâce à la technologie SAP, plus de 700 employés et 2 sites de transformation en Côte d'Ivoire. Et vous exportez plus de 1800 tonnes de noyaux 100% traçables. Alors, je pourrais dire encore beaucoup d'autres choses sur vos ambitions, mais je vais vous laisser le soin de vous le dire. Ma question pour vous, c'est est-ce que vous pouvez nous en dire un peu plus sur le protocole d'accord que vous avez signé ce matin, de votre perspective, et nous partager vos témoignages? Quelles sont vos attentes par rapport à cette plateforme?
Merci, Manal. Bonsoir à tous. Merci pour votre résilience. Moi, je regarde cette plateforme et ce protocole avec beaucoup d'espoir. Pour moi, c'est une alliance qui pourrait être catalytique pour les chaînes de valeur agricoles en Afrique, notamment pour les PME comme nous, qui sont génératrices d'emplois formels. Nous sommes une petite entreprise et nous avons généré 700 emplois permanents. Donc, j'imagine qu'avec l'aide de la plateforme, nous pourrions décupler et créer des jobs formels en Côte d'Ivoire et vraiment sédentariser des jeunes et des femmes pour un futur meilleur. Et je vais vous parler un petit peu des éléments de ce protocole. Le premier élément, c'est d'être focalisé sur le rendement du petit planteur. On a beaucoup entendu parler toute cet après-midi, d'ailleurs. Moi, c'est mon quotidien, les 7000 planteurs. Et le rendement du petit planteur est un vrai sujet économique. Et dans le cadre de la plateforme, on va examiner comment on peut améliorer son rendement tout en restant dans les principes de durabilité qui gouvernent les valeurs de Cashew Coast. Et à cet effet, nous allons travailler avec OCP notamment et Innovex, d'ailleurs, on m'a dit qu'on le disait, pour développer l'apiculture qui a un impact direct sur le rendement des petits planteurs, pour recycler nos coques en biochar pour créer cette économie circulaire dont on a tellement entendu parler cet après-midi et afin de régénérer les sols de ces petits planteurs. Et c'est vraiment une urgence dans le secteur du cajou en Côte d'Ivoire aujourd'hui. Le deuxième pan, c'est l'accès au financement. Pourquoi est-ce que le transformateur il a besoin d'argent? C'est pour qu'il puisse créer un accès au marché aux petits planteurs. Sans l'accès au financement, le petit planteur il est directement impacté. Et donc ça, c'est le deuxième pan. Et d'ailleurs, on a pu annoncer ce matin le partenariat avec la BOA. Grâce à la plateforme, nous avons pu sécuriser une finalisation pour la campagne 2024 de la part de la BOA. Et le troisième élément, c'est la consommation locale. Je pense que Jacques Attali a parlé de protéines végétales tout à l'heure. Effectivement, le cajou aujourd'hui est incorporé dans les diètes occidentaux parce que c'est une protéine végétale. Et nous pensons qu'on voudrait pousser pour la consommation du cajou localement et régionalement par rapport aux valeurs nutritionnelles de produits.
Super, merci beaucoup pour ce partage et félicitations encore une fois pour cette signature. Et nous suivrons avec beaucoup d'intérêt l'évolution dans les années à venir. Et justement, en parlant des années à venir, avant de conclure, j'aimerais poser une dernière question à nos deux co-organisateurs. À quoi pouvons-nous nous attendre pour les prochaines éditions de ce forum? Quelles sont un petit peu les initiatives que vous avez en tête et qu'est-ce qu'on peut anticiper pour la prochaine édition? Monsieur Le Barry, vous souhaitez peut-être commencer?
C'était une première édition. Elle était, on l'a fait exprès. C'était pas à grande échelle. Donc, on avait ciblé une centaine de personnes et c'est ce qu'on a fait. Mais l'idée, c'est de maintenant qu'on a testé, qu'on a vu ce que ça pouvait donner, les idées, les projets que ça pouvait générer, nous allons y aller de manière beaucoup plus importante. Donc, on cible plusieurs rendez-vous. Je pense un peu partout en Afrique, avec des choses un peu plus précises en termes de contenu, c'est-à-dire qu'on ciblera de manière plus précise des chaînes de valeur dans certains pays, avec des contributions terrain qui permettent d'identifier des choses les plus réalistes possibles. Et l'idée, c'est d'en faire quelque chose de structurel qui permet de générer des idées de projet, mais aussi de connecter des porteurs de projets avec des solutions qu'offre la plateforme ou qu'offrent d'autres apporteurs de solutions de financement.
Merci beaucoup. Donc, à plus grande échelle, plus de projets. Monsieur Mohamed Hatiti, de votre perspective, what's next?
Oui, c'est la même. Donc, si je puisse résumer, c'est un test pilote pour une production industrielle l'année prochaine. C'est-à-dire on passera à grande échelle, on aura des caravanes délocalisées, ne sera pas dans les mêmes endroits, on cherchera les projets là où ils sont. Pourquoi pas ne pas apporter le digital pour l'avoir d'une manière sustainable toute l'année, recevoir les demandes et faire des shows spots dans des endroits ciblés.
Très bien, parfait. Ben, nous avons hâte de vivre cela. Madame, messieurs, merci beaucoup pour votre présence parmi nous aujourd'hui. Il est temps pour nous, mesdames et messieurs, de clôturer, il me semble, officiellement cette belle journée qui a été très riche. Encore une fois, toutes mes félicitations pour cette belle plateforme et nous attendons avec impatience les prochaines éditions. Merci de les applaudir bien fort. Et nous en profitons pour dire un grand merci également à toute l'équipe présente dans la salle qui a très fortement contribué à rendre ce forum possible. Merci à tous les membres de l'équipe parmi nous, à la régie, à toutes les personnes qui ont fait que ce forum a pu le jour. C'était un plaisir, un honneur pour moi de vous accompagner aujourd'hui. Je vous souhaite une très bonne soirée et à très bientôt.